Welcome back. Let's go into part 3 of covering the basics in economics, and this one is going to be on the wisdom of crowds. Now I'm making this a video response to one of the Penn Says videos, and let's just watch a clip of it right here.
Can you guess how much this pumpkin weighs? If you get this is a Franklin County Fair in Greenfield, Massachusetts, which is my hometown, and if you can guess what this pumpkin weighs, you can win $100, right? Win $100. And it's $1 a guess. Now, what does this weigh? 600, 500, 400, somewhere around there.
Now, I don't know, because I wasn't there and I haven't looked into it. It might have just been a fundraiser, or it might have been a scientific experiment. So what you have is a pumpkin, and people can see the pumpkin. I don't know if they can lift the pumpkin or not. Maybe they can, maybe they can't. Turns out it doesn't really matter much. But they get to see the pumpkin, they get to get the information on the pumpkin. It's this size, it's this shape, and they guess how much it weighs. And whoever gets the closest wins whatever it is that they win. Well, if you get enough people guessing, let's say you get 300 or 400 people guessing, you take all of their guesses and you average them out, then the result of the average will be closer to the real figure than any individual guess. It sounds incredible, but it works. Now, the way this all got started with something that's called Galton's ox. This was Francis Galton, and what happened was there was a contest to guess the weight of an ox. And what Galton did was he looked at the winning guess, and he found out that the winning guess was the median. That means it was exactly in the middle. From the closest guess, just as many people guessed higher as guessed lower. And he thought that was pretty incredible. If you did the average, the mean, instead of the median, the result was 1 pound off of the correct value. It was so close. And ever since then, all of this stuff has been done about how the people as a collective knew more than any individual. And this included people who were butchers or large animal vets. They were all there at this fair. They were all making their guesses. They have experience with these things. And they couldn't even get their individual guesses as close as the overall average guess of everyone at the fair. And this is true even when you exclude the experts. Just everyone's normal guess was still close. So you've probably seen this thing before. You go to a fair or a school fundraiser or whatever, and there's a big bowl or jar of something. The traditional example is jelly beans, so it's called the jelly bean experiment. Guess how many jelly beans are in the jar. It's the same thing. Everyone goes, and it's a fundraiser, so they pay, whatever, $1 or whatever, and they make their guess, and then the winner gets the jar of jelly beans and a gift certificate or something like that. So they raise the money that way. But then when it's all done, if they get hundreds and hundreds of guesses, they can go and they can take the average of everyone's guesses and get incredibly close to the actual number of jelly beans that are in the jar, far closer than any individual guess. This is called the wisdom of crowds, and it's been verified again and again and again. Somehow, as a whole, we act as if we have better information than even the best of us individually. Now, they've tried ways of biasing this. For example, I saw a study where they did the jelly bean experiment, but they were trying to bias people to guess too high. And what they did was they said, okay, you can win $100, I think it was, but you also get an extra $50 or $100, whatever it was, for a larger number. So if the total number of jelly beans was 2,000, you'd get more than if the total number were 1,000, but you still had to guess accurately. What that was trying to do, that was trying to get people biased to making higher guesses and seeing if they could knock it off. They couldn't. When you averaged out everyone's guess, it was still, the average was more accurate than anyone's individual guess. The only way they found they can do this is just to cheat outright. Take a big ball of styrofoam or something, stick it in the middle of the bowl of jelly beans so that it looks like there are more jelly beans in there than there really are. Aside from that, they haven't found any way of biasing this to make the wisdom of crowds go wrong. Well, obviously there's been a lot of study of this. So why does this work, and when does it not work? When does it go awry? Well, it turns out there are 4 things that you need to do in order to get this to work. The first thing is you need a diversity of opinion and knowledge. You need people coming from different walks of life with different biases, different experiences. The more different, the more diverse, the better. And this flies in the face of what you see people talking about, for example, the stock market. They talk about, for example, insider trading. Oh, it's not fair that people have insider information. It's not fair that some people have more information than others. But that's the only way the wisdom of crowds can work. That's the only way it can set the proper price or manage the appropriate number of resources that there are. That's the only way it can work, is if there's this disparity of knowledge, opinion, and information. It's the only way it can work. The second thing you need is independence. Everyone has to make their own independent guesses and not be influenced by anything else. So if someone comes and makes their guess for jelly beans and they can see everyone else's previous guesses, they might be biased by them. You know, it's kind of like that last guy on The Price is Right. You know, when they call him down to the audience, they have the 4 and they do the last guy, and the last guy is basing his decision on what everyone else did and whether they think it's higher or lower or whatever. And he would give a completely different answer, most likely, if he were the first one. So that biases. So you need complete independence, no kind of collusion or collaboration, or you can have it on a small scale, but not on a big scale. The third is it needs to be decentralized, so they can't be part of the same authority. And this is a big problem with not only government departments, but also large corporations. And that is why, for example, Time Warner, look at the structure of Time Warner. That thing's insane. There are all these little separate divisions that don't have anything to do with each other. They don't really talk to each other. So you have a TV show shown by Warner Brothers. It might not be shown on the Warner Brothers network. It might be shown on ABC, which is owned by Disney. And even then, when they want to put it on home video, they got to go talk to Warner Home Video, and they got to sell it to Warner Home Video. So there are all these independent parts that are completely separate, and it's really like dealing with different corporations. It's decentralized. That's the reason why it works better. When you have an organization that's too centralized, you begin to have these problems. The fourth is aggregation. There has to be some way of combining all of this together so that it can have an effect. In the jelly bean experiment, you're converging on a number, and that number is the actual number of jelly beans. So you need all 4 of those. You need diversity of opinion and knowledge, you need independence, you need decentralization, and you need aggregation. Now, how can this go wrong? Well, there are a few different ways. One is if everyone is too homogeneous, if you don't have the diversity. If everyone is in the same culture or the same background, they might be biased in the same direction. The other is it could be centralized. If things are too centralized, if everyone's from the same authority or part of the same hierarchical structure, it won't work. Now, I said with the insider trading, you need to have that diversity of knowledge, but it can't be too divided. It can't be the bowl of styrofoam stuck in the bowl of jelly beans. There can't be any kind of division of information that leads people to the wrong conclusion. And that usually means some kind of fraud or something that's preventing all of this information from getting together and working properly. The fourth is imitative. If people are just copying the same methods that other people are using, then obviously if those methods are flawed, they'll be flawed in the same direction. So again, you're losing diversity. And the fifth is if it's too emotional. They need to try to make a good, considered opinion on whatever it is, how many jelly beans in the jar, or even a big economic thing like what's this stock going to do. If you make your decision based on emotion, it's not going to work. The wisdom of crowds is a big way that the market works. And the biggest way it can go wrong is by government intervention. For example, you have the market trying to head towards total employment and total output. A lot of people don't trust the free market. They managed to get the government on their side, and so they created the Federal Reserve. The idea is that the Federal Reserve is made up of people who are knowledgeable, who are very skilled in this, who have studied this, and so they know more about what's going on, and they can anticipate where total output is going to go to and go beyond it so that they can do the lower interest rates and avoid the inflation and avoid the boom and bust cycles. But the truth is, no one knows what that is. No one knows what the total output is in the economy at any given time. Not Ben Bernanke, not anyone in the Federal Reserve, not anyone in the big financial markets, not Warren Buffett. No one knows where it is. We rely on the wisdom of crowds to be able to zero in on that. And so when the federal government tries to figure it out, they're going to get it wrong, and they're just going to make things worse. Well, that's part 3, the wisdom of crowds. We'll see you later for part 4.